Fantastic collection of people here today, about 30 odd police forces represented, 70 odd organisations, all here to learn from each other and to improve the way in which we all go about our engagement, which is absolutely crucial to building trust and confidence. Welcome everybody to Melton. I know we've got people from far and wide here today, from all across the UK, all across policing. I think we've got about 30 odd police forces represented, about 70 odd organisations. So in Humberside Police, we aim to be an outstanding, globally recognised, locally trusted force which is victim focused, community focused and workforce focused. But are we achieving that? So the engagement is how we gauge that. It's about trust and confidence. Trust and confidence in commerce, in the economy, in employment, that we have something to do when we get up in the morning, we can support ourselves, we can get an income for us, for our families. And we have to have trust and confidence in the rule of law. And that is definitely part of policing's responsibility, not solely policing, but we are one of the key players in that trust and confidence in the rule of law.
Well, I think the first thing is that we've got to get those communities to be willing to engage with us. So having confidence to engage will naturally lead from that confidence to engage to building trust. If we don't have the confidence for people to engage with us, we're never going to build that trust. And I think they are intrinsically linked and are absolutely linked to legitimacy overall.
The interaction with the public from a trust and legitimacy point of view is a key thing, really, that engagement with the public. And as you'll know from recent kind of events over the last few years, the trust in the policing has been kind of rocked by various different kind of events. Things that we're not proud of course, but to be able to restore that kind of interaction, that day-to-day kind of contact, that kind of getting a voice from the public is really, really important.
So today I'm talking about misinformation and the importance of effective community engagement, clear, trusted sources of community engagement in times of real criticality. Having people registered to our trusted My Community Alert network was really important. And then being really quick to respond to emerging concerns with clear, concise and trusted information to the places where we needed it to go.
We saw misinformation spreading faster than ever. Communities were looking for quick, accurate updates and clear reassurance from us. We also had to ensure our engagement was culturally informed and respectful, especially when working with diverse and faith-based backgrounds. My goal was simple: to engage, to listen, and to build healthy long-term relationships with Medway's diverse communities through consistency, visibility, and genuine partnership. For this, Neighbourhood Alert was a great facilitator.
Ultimately, we've heard from almost every presentation today about the public want us to increase visibility and have more officers back on the street. But we know that the actual reality of that is unlikely to happen in the near future. And in fact, across most forces, we're probably going to be shrinking further. So what is the best cost-effective way of giving the impression that you are there all the time? Well, it's better comms and engagement, quite frankly. It's as simple as that. Coupled with the fact that actually a lot of the time we are there, it's just that the public don't know we're there, so let's just tell them that we were there. It's really simple.
Neighbourhood policing has always been, and is always going to be, the foundation for public trust, but for far too long it's lacked consistency, protection and the clarity it needed to thrive. The MPG helps change that. It restores clear standards, backed by evidence and investment, and a national commitment. But those standards alone are not enough. Engagement is the engine for neighbourhood policing. Visibility shows that we're present, but engagement shows that we're listening. And when communities feel heard, they become partners. And as I said, tools like Neighbourhood Alert help us to close that loop, turning visibility into reassurance, reassurance into confidence, and confidence into cooperation. Because neighbourhood policing isn't just about seeing, it's about being connected. And if we get that right, it won't just be about us delivering the outcomes of the white paper or the neighbourhood policing guarantee. It helps us rebuild the bond that needs to exist between policing and the communities. I think we've got to listen, and we've got to be really clear that we're listening, but we've also got to demonstrate through actions that we are listening to the communities, and that we are giving legitimacy to those concerns and the actions that we do. So by going out having connections with our communities, listening to the issues that they've got, and then demonstrating action against that, we help to build that public confidence that we want to re-establish.
Engaging with those communities, I think, is now going to become a more difficult, more complex science. We need new ways of thinking, we need new tools, and we need to understand that this is never going to stand still. The point about public service is to make sure that what we pay for as taxpayers serves everybody, all citizens, all residents, brings us together rather than allows us to drift apart. And I hope that we can be your partners in that endeavour. Thank you.
I think the biggest obstacle to effective community engagement right now is insight and understanding into who communities are and how they're working. Today, with more people moving faster and in greater numbers than ever before, I think the real problem for most people in frontline services, frankly, is knowing who's there, what they're about, what they want, and what will most help them in their everyday lives. So I would say the biggest obstacle that people face right now is just the pace of change.
There's a lot of misinformation, particularly these days. Proliferation of channels information is disseminated through. And of course, if we don't provide accurate information, then it's natural that those voids will be filled by others.
I'm Dr. Marcellus Baz, BEM, and I am representing Switch Up and the Marcellus Baz Foundation. I wanted people to be able to look through the lens of lived experience, look through the lens of disadvantaged, vulnerable and often forgotten communities.
I was fed up of standing in funerals where we were burying 14-year-old kids. So I started to look at our communities through a different lens, and I started to see that there was this real big disconnect. Support them to become law-abiding, tax-paying citizens that are contributing towards our country.
I just want to focus on the change that we saw with public confidence. So at baseline, the areas that later went on to get neighbour policing, public confidence was about 41%. So 41% agreed that the police in the local area were doing a good or excellent job, compared to 44% of people in areas that didn't have neighbour policing and weren't going to get neighbour policing. Now, after 12 months, this is what happened. It jumped up by 15 percentage points in the areas that got neighbour policing, but only 3 percentage points in the areas that didn't. So that's a net gain of 12 percentage points. So not only does neighbour policing improve those outcomes, it can also have a sustained impact over time.
Open, honest and transparent two-way communication by all the ways that people want and need to communicate with the police, so not just online but in person, via the media and so on. The Trust and Confidence Police is formed on a bottom-up process, and these are people at the front line of that process.
I think the key thing is being willing to listen. We know organisations, whether they're private sector, public sector, all do consultation, all do surveys of the public, but do they actually listen to what the public have to say and therefore make changes and act in the public's interest?
Also in terms of Neighbourhood Watch being a really great way to engage in your community and a first step to that. The way that we support communities by connecting people, so people are less isolated, people are less lonely. That has a benefit to those individuals, but also we know that where, as has been said several times today, where communities are more connected and more interactive with each other, crime doesn't work there. There is less crime as a result of that. So there's many kind of factors in that. But in a broad kind of perspective of Neighbourhood Watch, what you may well not be aware of is that now we have a huge number of members across England and Wales, so 2.3 million, and that's households. It's rare, you'll know as well as anyone, it's rare that two people in the same household join Neighbourhood Alert. So this is 2.3 million households, so a large number of households.
And a lot of what we do in the community side and in neighbourhoods is about bridging that gap, about closing the gap between when do I ring the police and ownership, nudging people towards active citizenship and knowing who your neighbours are, knowing what feels odd, knowing when you ring the police and which route you take, and we'll talk about that a lot, because just that knowledge about an area rather than you being in an isolated bubble is important.
Ultimately, we're seeking to grow trust, strengthen relationships and reconnect policing with communities. So within these pillars, because we could talk about all of these, there's probably three that are most relevant to this conference and what's going on here today. Firstly, as I said, that named contact officer, and that's important because it sets us out. It puts a flag in the ground that says we're here. These officers are in our community. They're real and they're visible. And a cynic would say, if we've told the public they're there, it becomes much harder to take them away, and it protects the resource that exists. Publishing genuine local priorities ensures policing reflects the community voice. It means that we're out there listening to the public communities that we work with, and we're not setting priorities that are generic. We're not just going for force-wide copy and paste of priorities across the country. We're taking generally informed issues from the communities and then telling them how we're going to do it, which again shows that we're listening.
We were getting exceptionally low levels of community intelligence, which we found was due to the low confidence. People didn't want to talk to us. They were frightened of repercussions, but they also felt that we weren't going to take them seriously if they did tell us what was going on. We had low levels of confidence that we were actually tackling those problems. Our communities didn't think we were doing enough. And that was linked to the violent organised crime. What we did have in Fleetwood was exceptional partners, lots and lots of people and organisations wanting to make a difference, willing to make a difference, but not necessarily working together. Everyone was working in isolation.
We've seen, since using that system, the increase in usage of our surveys, increase in response and feedback from members of the public, massively go up since we've used this system. The use of this VISAV technology has massively helped us get out there to everybody, not just a certain group of people, but everybody, and get a real range and feedback of views from across our communities.
Looking at the surveys that have been carried out through Neighbourhood Alert, showing that there's a really exceptionally high level of trust in Neighbourhood Alert and the information that it provides, and how kind of relevant, timely and useful that users of Neighbourhood Alert find that information.
Using, in our case, the My Community Alert system to get reliable messages to key individuals in our community to try and allay concerns, address that misinformation and quell community tensions at the earliest opportunity.
Opportunities for us to engage, and through that engagement, in addition to building that trust and confidence, to co-create and problem solve all the things that we have to do in policing. It's always a shared endeavour. So through engagement, we get those ideas, we get that co-creation, we get that buy-in, and we solve those problems which get ahead of the issues that we have to deal with in policing.
You know, these key individual networks are those people we can go to understand, do that temperature check, if you like, of how the community are feeling, and also give us some advice and support in how to get that message out further and wider, really amplify that message, get it out in the right way.
So one of the things I've really enjoyed hearing about over the course of this conference is how other forces go about doing similar things to us in Hertfordshire Constabulary. And one of the things I've been keen on since forever is not having to reinvent the wheel. If another force is doing something good, then I would like to hear about it, to see how we can fit it in to some of our own parts of the work.
Well, I think the first thing is that we've got to get those communities to be willing to engage with us. So having confidence to engage will naturally lead from that confidence to engage to building trust. If we don't have the confidence for people to engage with us, we're never going to build that trust. And I think they are intrinsically linked and are absolutely linked to legitimacy overall.
And if we get that right, and if we really, within this room and the people within policing, take this seriously, we can help to protect our neighbourhood policing teams, we can help prioritise our neighbourhood policing teams, and we can also champion neighbourhood policing as delivering some great things within our communities.
So that's it in a nutshell, I suppose. Moving ahead, I'm confident to say our use of My Community Alert has shifted dramatically from what it started out as, and it's great to hear case studies and experiences from around the room. We learn all the time in respect to this, and some of the examples that you provided have already provoked conversation with some of our colleagues from Humberside here around how we can maybe use some of this different. But in times of criticality, when truth really mattered, when that one source of messaging was really important, this system paid dividends. Getting the message out to the masses in a way that it was trusted, in a way that was also able to be disseminated by key individuals within our community was highly effective.
Thank you all for coming here today, making this event as special as it is, and thank you for all the brilliant work that you all do on a daily basis, and keep doing it. Thank you.